And we have made it. The 6-week break with no UFC has ended. Well, almost. It is basically fight week. UFC 324 from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Main evented Justin Gaethje, Paddy Pimblett, interim lightweight title fight. And I'll say this right out the gate. I'm excited for the UFC being back. I'm so pumped. The Paramount era I think is going to be cool. You know, I can't wait. What is this card? It's a good card. Is it the card Paramount wanted? No. It's a good card, and I'm excited to watch. But really, we got Natalia Silva and Rose Namajunas on the main card. And guys, Natalia Silva's the future 125 champ. We're gonna get Shevchenko the hell out of there soon. But come on now, really? This is the first card on Paramount? I don't know, man. Obviously, the co-main is no longer Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes for the Bantamweight Championship. That is now Sean O'Malley taking on Song Yadong. I don't think Nunes is going to get a replacement. It looks like that bout's just going to be rescheduled, likely for the White House. So regardless, we have 13 fights to kick off the Paramount era with the interim lightweight championship in the main event. Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. If I had to guess, the winner will likely be fighting Ilia Topuria at the White House in June. Some big stuff around that fight, too. Potential last fight for Justin Gaethje. We'll get into that later in the video. Folks, before we get into it, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more content here on Greedo Plays MMA. We're going to have our best bets out later in the week for this card. And last week, we did post another video here on Greedo Plays MMA. We predicted every single UFC champion. In 2026, we looked at futures bets, and again, who I think is going to be the champion at the end of 2026 in each weight class. So go make sure to check out that video. That will be linked in the description down below. That's how we got the year going here on Greedo Plays MMA, and on the main channel as well, Greedo Plays daily college basketball best bets, daily NBA best bets, NFL predictions, and if you're interested still, the national championship is still coming up shortly. Miami Hurricanes, Indiana Hoosiers, not to pat myself on the back at all, but hey, in August, we did call the Hoosiers and the Hurricanes in the national championship game. It has happened. So anyways, go check out all those videos on Greedo Plays. Go check out the futures video as well here on this channel. Let's do it. UFC is back now in 2026. First fight of the year in the welterweight division. Ty Miller versus Adam Fugitt. What a fight. What a fight. No, again, it's I'm not going to complain. I was expecting a big time fight for the start for Paramount. You know what? I'm going to stop complaining. Ty Miller, Adam Fugitt kicks off the Paramount era at 170. I think this is a really good fight for Ty Miller. Adam Fugitt is old. 37 years of age, still has a job in the UFC. His record in the promotion is 2-3, coming off a loss in his last fight to Islam Dulatov, getting knocked out in the first round back in, that was in New Orleans, UFC 318. Fugitt's last win, a competitive win over Josh Quinlan. Okay. He's going to fight Ty Miller here. Ty Miller coming off of a win on the Contender Series just last year, going out and beating Jimmy Drago by unanimous decision. It was a fight in which Miller was a pretty sizable favorite in. He goes out there and takes care of business, just pieces out Drago as the fight goes on. And ultimately, I just don't know what Adam Fugitt really offers the UFC anymore at 37. And that does sound a little harsh, I understand, but what is his future? This is a guy who's 10-5. You've lost 3 fights by knockout already in your career. 2 of them are in the UFC. In all fairness, one of them is DeMichael Morales, one of them is Islam Dulatov, but you are used as nothing but a stepping stone in the UFC. And that, again, sounds really harsh, but ultimately, that's what Fugitt's run has been. His wins are low-level wins. There's only 2. Yukashu Kinoshita and Josh Quinlan, barely by split decision. Quinlan's a fun fighter. Is he a highly skilled fighter? No. Kinoshita, we didn't hear much about that guy after his fight against Fugitt. He fought Billy Ray Goff, and I don't think he's in the UFC anymore. He's been scheduled for a couple fights, but Kinoshita was never a great signing, I thought, for the UFC. They just wanted to continue to tap back in to that Japanese market. Fugitt's victories, again, not great. Losses, Morales, Mike Malott, Dulatov. In all fairness, guys who they've been trying to build up and guys that the UFC sees a future in, right? Dulatov, a German prospect who's 1-0 in the UFC, 12-1 professionally. I'm not telling you Ty Miller is going to be on the same trajectory as a Michael Morales, who's a fight away from the title. Like a Mike Malott, who the UFC is just begging and trying to find a Canadian star. And Dulatov, who I think is going to be very good and hits like a truck for 170. That guy's going to have a very bright future, I believe, in the UFC. I think Ty Miller is going to be okay. I don't know if he's going to be on that level. Miller's a guy who is somewhat unexperienced, only 6 pro fights going into this bout, but he's taken on a 37-year-old. Miller has 12 years of youth, I guess you can say, here on Fugitt. I believe Ty Miller is the much faster fighter. I think he's the better fighter, and I just don't know how Fugitt, really wins this one. I think, I think we probably see Fugitt look to mix it up with the wrestling. I think that's probably his best pathway to success in this fight. But again, if you've only had 5 fights in the UFC and every semi-big spot that you get, like, in all fairness too, right? We're talking about Fugitt being a stepping stone. It's not like he doesn't get a chance to win these fights. I mean, sure, he's being thrown out to the wolves. These are fights that he's not supposed to win, but at the same time, you are given an opportunity to win them. And Fugitt has not been able to cash in on any opportunity so far. Obviously, again, never expected to win any of these fights, but caught the Mike Malott fight at the right time. Mike Malott had lost to, that was before he lost to Magny, but still, Malott, again, was coming off a Mickey Gall victory. And, Malott goes out there and submits Fugitt. I haven't seen it yet out of Adam Fugitt. If he wasn't great and wasn't successful in the UFC at 35, what makes you think he's going to be successful at 37? I liked enough of what we got out of Ty Miller in the Contender. He was coming off of knockout victory 2 fights prior in LFA. Had a accidental eye poke, ruined his last fight in LFA before going on to the Contender. But a guy who at least has a future. That's what I can say about this one. A guy who actually has a future in Ty Miller, and I'm just not impressed with anything Adam Fugitt has done so far in the UFC. So I think Ty Miller wins the fight. I think we start off the year probably with the decision victory for Ty Miller. I expect these guys to throw early in this fight. Again, first fight on Paramount, I guarantee they got the Dana White pep talk before the fight. Go out there and prove yourself. All right, go make sure people know who you are at the end of the night. So I think Miller and Fugitt are going to throw down. I don't think that creates for a great fight for Fugitt. Maybe Ty Miller chins him. I can see it happening, again, considering Adam Fugitt's 37 years of age, but I'm just going to go with Ty Thriller Miller to win the first fight on Paramount in the UFC, and he's going to be able to get it done by unanimous decision to kick off the night, again, against Adam Fugitt. On to our second fight of the night, we move on to the bantamweight division between Ricky Turcios and Cameron Smotherman, again at 135. Smotherman a favorite in this fight at minus 225. Turcios coming back at you in that plus 170 to plus 175-ish range. Smotherman's UFC run, I can say, has just been very tough outs so far. I mean, again, you can look at the UFC record and say, oh, he's 1-2, he's 12-6 as a whole. Look at the guys they've given him so far. I mean, there's not been an easy fight so far in the career of Cameron Smotherman in the UFC. Comes in, fights Jake Hadley in his first fight. I know Hadley's UFC run wasn't the longest. It was only 7 fights. But this is a guy who ended up going on to the PFL, ended up fighting for, or getting close to fighting for the PFL championship. At least won 1 fight in the PFL tournament last year. And I know the PFL is changing up their entire format this year, which, sure, I guess. Cool. Anyways, Smotherman gets the Hadley fight, loses by decision, it is what it is, and then goes on to, beats Hadley by decision, wins that fight, and then lose to Siri City, lose to Ricky Simone after that. Again, the Simone fight, just such a difficult bout. I don't know why he got that after losing to City. He's a plus 350 dog in the Ricky Simone fight. That fight goes pretty much how you expect it to go. Simone grinds it out on the ground. Simone wins a wrestling-heavy wrestling-heavy approach. Simone, 9 minutes of control time in that fight. Wins it 30-27 on two cards, 29-28 on the other card. But I do think Smotherman still has a lot of talent. Again, I just think we haven't been able to entirely see it so far in the UFC. This is a guy who does hit hard, and we saw that throughout the course of his regional career over in Fury. Just so far in the UFC, some tough outs, was able to beat Hadley in his first fight, went out there and just overwhelmed Jake Hadley with strikes before running into Siri City, competitive fight, but City had the edge in the wrestling, and then Ricky Simone obviously just didn't allow Smotherman to really breathe in that fight. He smothered Cameron Smotherman on the ground. No, nobody? Okay. Anyways, he's taking on Ricky Turcios, and I believe Turcios is probably going to come out with that same style of approach, I think. I know Turcios has gotten out-wrestled in his last couple fights, but guys, I have not been impressed by a Ricky Turcios fight in a very long time. We know the grappling is in the back pocket. Turcios can go to it, and on The Ultimate Fighter, somewhat, they were hyping up his ground game. He was supposed to be, a wrestler who can go out there and just scramble with you. The Brady Hiestand fight when he won The Ultimate Fighter was a competitive wrestling affair. He goes on then to fight the worst fight ever against Amen Zahabi, and at the time we didn't think Zahabi was going to make this crazy run. At the time he was still the, look, it's Ariel Helwani guy. But Turcios doesn't, throw a strike in the Zahabi fight, beats Kevin Natividad in a fight where he actually got dropped earlier in the bout, but ultimately finds a way to win, gets choked out by Raul Rosas Jr. in the second round in Louisville, Kentucky, and then fights Bernardo Sapaj last year in the first pay-per-view of last year and loses a decision. I just don't think he can strike with Smotherman. Guys, I don't like the Turcios striking game. He's oddly slow, I think, for 135, and I might argue he's gotten slower as his career has gone on. The jab just doesn't snap anymore for me. I feel like his straights are kind of looping now, too. And I don't know, maybe it's just a lack of focus, it's a lack of effort, it's a lack of care. I just feel like Ricky Turcios has gotten worse. Is that a hot take? he's gotten worse. And maybe, again, the level of competition he fought in the Ultimate Fighter, in all fairness, wasn't the highest. But, I mean, beat Dan Argueta, beat Ludwig Shailan, both of those guys, I mean, got UFC opportunities. Neither of them had the most success. I mean, Shailan never won a fight in the UFC. And for Dan Argueta, I mean, 1-3 in the promotion. But, you know, beats Brady Heastand, who I understand was not that experienced either. But ultimately, Ricky Turcios is 1-3 outside of the Ultimate Fighter. And this is a good fight for Smotherman too, right? It's not on the level of Ricky Simone. It's not on the level of a Surrey City. He should go out here and just be able to out-volume Turcios. And again, I don't know if Ricky's going to try to go out there and grapple him. If he tries to strike with him, yeah, I like Smotherman to win that too. So I just think it's a very good fight for Cameron Smotherman, a guy who I believe has potential. Obviously lost his first Contender Series fight, and actually only Contender Series fight against Charalampus Grigoriou, who never saw success in the UFC. But I think Smotherman, you know, winning the Hadley fight, dropping back-to-back, it is what it is. Those are two fights he wasn't really expected to win. I mean, closer odds, I'll say, in the City fight, but obviously that fight against Simone was not expected to be competitive, and obviously Ricky went out there and won a decision. I think Smotherman gets a much more manageable matchup here with Ricky Turcios, and I do expect him to win this fight on strikes in terms of a decision that is eventually, again, won because of his striking game. I don't think Turcios can beat him to the punch. I just think Turcios is kind of just slow for the weight class. You know, that does sound weird to say a 135 or slow, but that's kind of how I approach Turcios. And I still, I mean, in the back of my mind, still the hesitancy in that Zahabi fight, it hasn't been always the case in all of his fights recently, I will say that, but I just think Smotherman's going to bring the fight to him. Smotherman is the younger fighter, he's the quicker fighter, and I do believe that the babyface killer, Cameron Smotherman, wins this fight, taking down Ricky Turcios, not literally, but well, kind of. Winning the fight, not wrestling, but outstriking Ricky Turcios to a unanimous decision. On now to our third fight of the year and third fight on the card. I'd argue this should have opened up the Paramount era just because of the name value, but here it is. Michael the Menace Johnson taking on the Great Ape, Alexander Hernandez. Someone's likely getting knocked out, and Unk keeps on winning. How about Michael Johnson, man? Michael Johnson, who, don't forget, welcomed Justin Gaethje into the UFC all the way back in 2017. And Michael Johnson somehow, even though his record's 16-15 in the UFC, has won 3 consecutive fights. And his last one, man, oh boy, main card victory over Daniel Zellhuber. But the UFC, don't forget, they're still trying on Zellhuber. He's been booked in a big fight coming up in Mexico against Bobby Green, King Green. So they're still trying to get Zellhuber going, even though he's now lost back-to-back to Ribovic and Michael Johnson. We'll get to that when we get there. There's a chance Bobby Green beat Zellhuber. But anyways, Michael Johnson, 3 consecutive wins after dropping a fight where he got stiffed like a board against Carlos Diego Ferreira. 3 consecutive wins, beating Darius Flowers, knocking out Otman Azaitar, and then beating Daniel Zellhuber as a plus 555 underdog on a main card of a pay-per-view in New Orleans, Louisiana. Michael Johnson's not done yet, and he's found his way, obviously, now on the undercard of this pay-per-view card and first ever card on Paramount. He's going to be taking on the Great Ape, Alexander Hernandez. You know, the Johnson run's been great. You have to say, though, the run for Alexander Hernandez has just been better. Remember who stiffed Michael Johnson like a board? That's Carlos Diego Ferreira. Yeah, Alexander Hernandez just knocked him out in his last fight in September. The Great Ape has now won 4 consecutive fights, and he's finally letting loose, and he's finally getting going with his striking. I mean, he's letting the hands finally go. Hernandez now has won 4 consecutive fights. Still some hesitancy, I'll say, in the Austin Hubbard fight, but wins that fight by split decision, beats Kurt Hollaball, and then everything changes when he fights Chase Hooper. A fight that Hernandez is not expected to win. It's a semi-short notice fight, but Hernandez comes in there and knocks out Chase Hooper in the first round. Again, Hooper had built all this momentum, finally got, promotional backing's always been there at Chase Hooper, but the fan base started to really think, okay, wait, hold on. Hooper's going on a run, and Alexander Hernandez knocks him out cold. Puts him, not cold, puts him out, though. Puts him out. Rocks and wobbles him and drops him. Didn't put him out stiff like a board, obviously, like Michael Johnson, but knocks him out. And a big win for Alexander Hernandez, and then comes back and beats Carlos Diego Ferreira and knocks him out in the second round. This is a run on Noche 2 in his home city of San Antonio, Texas. I like the run for Michael Johnson, but now that we have a focused Alexander Hernandez, that's trouble. I'm not going to put Alexander Hernandez back on that same, track where he was at one point in time. If you remember, obviously, back in 2018, Alexander Hernandez had won back-to-back fights to kick off his UFC career. He had beaten Dariush in 42 seconds on a pay-per-view undercard, and then beaten future PFL GOAT, one can say, and Olivier Aben-Mercier by unanimous decision. runs into the first ever ESPN card back when that era was starting in 2019 against Donald Cowboy Cerrone. It was the featured prelim on that card on obviously Cejudo and Dillashaw. And Cowboy head kicked him in the face. And that messed up Hernandez in a big way. He did win his next fight against Trinaldo, but it was a horrible fight where like 5 strikes were thrown the entire time, I thought, and everyone thought Trinaldo had won. But Hernandez has really just struggled to capitalize and really just pick up any steam and get any momentum until now. I mean, 4-fight winning streak, and this is the best version of Hernandez we have seen in a very long time. And I'm telling you, that Chase Hooper fight was all the momentum he needed. And now he's going to take on Michael Johnson, a more than willing striker. I mean, Michael Johnson's going to be able to, he's going to be willing to throw hands. And hell, Michael Johnson knocked down Daniel Zellhuber in that fight in New Orleans. He obviously knocked out Otman Azaitar before that in Tampa. And finally, some activity I can say out of Michael Johnson, who only fought once in 2025, did fight twice in 2024, but now immediately getting on this first card here in 2026. And in all fairness to him, he is 39. Unfortunately, guys, hate to say it, I gotta fade Unk. I gotta go Alexander Hernandez. I don't think Michael Johnson can sit in the pocket with Alexander Hernandez the way Hernandez is letting go on his strikes and the way he's throwing right now. Hernandez is finally throwing with confidence, and he's throwing hard, and he's putting guys down. Chase Hooper, who at times in the past used to block punches with his face, not entirely the case now, but puts Chase Hooper down. Puts out Diego Ferreira, who's old, but still, Michael Johnson's old too. At some point in time, I mean, that chin eventually catches up to you. Michael Johnson has been in, 45 professional fights, give or take? 43 professional fights, I think if my math is right. Yeah. Come on, I gotta go Alexander Hernandez. I commend Michael Johnson on this run. It's been phenomenal. Hernandez, though, is looking like a potential top 15 fighter right now at lightweight. Legitimately. That should be his next fight. Unfortunately for the Menace, I think Alexander Hernandez knocks him out in the second round. I think eventually he's going to find that shot, and the first finish of 2026 will go to the Great Ape in Alexander Hernandez. On now to our 4th fight of the night, we move to the heavyweight division. Here is the Incredible Hulk, Josh Hokit, as he takes on Denzel Freeman. An intriguing fight, I will say, because Josh Hokit's just one of these guys, and like what he says or not, and this is the Colby Covington philosophy, and obviously Hokit's, people say, regardless, I'm not going to get into the Josh Hokit thing. I mean, some people think the gimmick's even cornier than Colby. But don't forget, guys, hey, we're back. Colby Covington, hey, we are beating Luke Rockhold in Real American Freestyle. Hey, all is right. Colby Covington's back. Title run starts now. Going on to the middleweight championship. Watch out, Hamzat. Colby's coming to 85 after mauling and ragdolling Luke Rockhold. Anyways, Josh Hokit versus Denzel Freeman. I needed to transition somewhere into getting going with, chaos. We're back. Colby's back. Oh, man, we did it. Anyways, Josh Hokit, Denzel Freeman. Obviously, Hokit's always going to draw those Colby comps. Hokit has been very outspoken. He doesn't like Colby. But regardless of all that, though, Josh Hokit can fight. I'll tell you that. And again, keep saying this about Josh Hokit. Hokit says a lot of things. Agree with him on some of the stuff he talks about outside of the octagon or not, that doesn't matter. His point about heavyweights not being able to wrestle and being fat, unathletic, non-athletes is what we always say about heavyweight fighting. I'm not calling Denzel Freeman that, but I'm saying in general, what Hokit said, I'm just going to go out here and I'm going to out-wrestle guys. I'm going to out-train these guys. I'm a better athlete than these guys. I used to play in the NFL. 49ers, Cardinals player. I went out, I was a professional football player. I wrestled at Fresno State. I'm a better athlete than all these guys, and I'm going to just walk all these guys down on the ground, and if my striking gets better too, well, I'm going to knock these guys out at the same time. Well, Josh Hokit's first fight in the UFC does win by knockout, gets Max Jimenez, goes out there, and knocks him out in 56 seconds. Now, what will Jimenez ever be in the UFC? I don't know, but Hokit makes light work of the guy, knocking him out in the apex, and now here he comes. He's fighting in the T-Mobile Arena. He wins tonight, or wins on Saturday. He gets to be interviewed by Joe Rogan. Again, it's a huge career bump now for Josh Hokit after fighting that victory in the UFC Apex and talking the way he talks. It gets you on the big stage. Taking on Denzel Freeman, a talented fighter, do not get me wrong, coming off a win in November. Quick turnaround for Freeman after beating Marek Bulio, winning that fight by unanimous decision. It was kind of just an unknown fight on both sides. Denzel Freeman had wins over Steven Asplin, the big titty guy. I mean, he says it himself. That's not my words. Those are his. Beating Asplin, beating Hugo Cunha in back-to-back fights. He was the LFA champion going into his first UFC bout. Not a contender series fight, but it felt like it. Him and Bulio for making their UFC debuts on both sides. I just didn't know what to expect in that one. Freeman wins it, okay? Not a overly, crazy fight. Freeman just does enough, outstrikes Bulio. I'm telling you this, guys, it's going to take a really good fighter to beat Josh Hokit. It is. Because I say this all the time, too. Your wrestling makes your striking so much better. And there is a fear of the wrestling game out of Josh Hokit, because I do believe he's capable of just mauling guys on the ground. Everything Hokit says about what he's going to do in the heavyweight division is so true. Up until the top 5, yes, I'm saying Josh Hokit's going to get to the top 10 very soon. I think. The way he fights, it's just danger for all these guys, man. He's an actual athlete. He has, an actual cardio base. He's, a legitimate wrestler. The striking, again, we'll see. I still think he's got, room to work on the striking game, but knocks out Hernandez, who's not the best striker in his own right, but gets a win. I think he's going to go out here and probably beat down Denzel Freeman in the first round. I think we're going to see a Josh Hokit first round TKO on the ground. That's where I think we see this one go. I mean, we saw the striking game, obviously, in his last fight, dropped Jimenez twice in the span of 50 seconds. I think we see probably a takedown out of Hokit here and just a complete mauling on the ground. Again, can he win a striking battle against Denzel Freeman? Possibly. I know Freeman has decent jiu-jitsu and a decent wrestling game, but I'm telling you, this is Hokit's world. It's Joe Rogan mannerisms, Joe Rogan sayings here, but you don't want to be down there with Josh Hokit. This is where he wants you. This is his world down there. Legitimately, though, it is. That's everything Josh Hokit wants out of a fight. He wants to get you down, wants to get you into a crucifix, and he just wants to beat your face in. I think he's going to get a first-round TKO against Denzel Freeman. I'm telling you, he's going to run through a lot of guys in the heavyweight division. We talked about it when he made his UFC debut. This is going to keep going. Trust me. He's going to keep talking, and he should. Get your name out there, start winning fights, get people invested to watch you either win or lose. Josh Hokit likely beats Denzel Freeman, I think, in the first round via TKO. I think Freeman's got decent striking. I think he's got decent jiu-jitsu and decent wrestling. It's not going to be enough, though, for me to beat Josh Hokit. I think Hokit's going to run right through him and likely win the fight by first round TKO, officially putting himself on the map. On to our next fight, we move to a matchup in the flyweight division, as Charles Inner G Johnson gets a massive fight taking on former title challenger and former main eventer in Alex Perez. Charles Johnson's in a really good spot, guys. Now, how long will he stay in this spot? I don't know. I'm not talking specifically about can Charles Johnson keep winning to stay in this spot. We're talking about, obviously, the current champion in Joshua Van. I still don't know when Alexandre Pantoja is going to be back, right? I'm seeing some reports, he's going to be back in the summer. He's going to be back in late 2026, or he won't be fighting until early 2027. We still don't know, obviously, on the former champ at 125. But why I bring this up, though, is because Charles Johnson has a win over one Josh Van. And it's a big one. Knocked Josh Van out. I think it was in Denver, right? It was in Denver at altitude. Knocked Josh Van out in the third round. I'm pretty sure it was in Denver. Yes, it was. Namajunas versus Cortes. Josh Van gets knocked out by Charles Johnson. It's the one loss he has in the UFC. Charles Johnson wins this fight, then beats a Brandon Moreno next, and that's the call-out I think we should be looking for here if you're Charles Johnson. You're getting a title fight. Again, if Van's the champ, and that would mean Van's got to get through Taira, potentially a Horiguchi/Cop, and then Pantoja, but all Johnson's got to do is keep winning. This is a guy who's 7-5 in the UFC, does kind of feel like, I don't want to call him a gatekeeper at 125, because I don't think that's what he is, but a guy that's just around the top 10 and will continue to be around the top 10 and top 15, but never a true championship contender. What's a comp for him I can say? A Marcin Tybura, and that's not entirely who you want to be, but legitimately I think that's kind of his comp. Not in terms of how he fights, but in terms of what he is for the weight class. A guy who's just going to continue to be tough tests for fighters, and obviously again, got way more knockout ability honestly than Tybura has. And maybe that's not the best comp I can make, but can I get my point at that, right? I think that's what Johnson probably should be, and that's what he has been so far. He's 7-5. But there is momentum right now. Win over Josh Van, beat Sumadarji after, lost to Ramazan Tarimov, but then got that huge victory. Man, that was a massive one over Loney Kavanaugh. Knockout win over Loney Kavanaugh, absolutely massive stuff. We thought Charles Johnson was going to win. We had it. Charles Johnson plus 215, big winner for us on that night. Knocking out Loney Kavanaugh, that's a big momentum booster. The thing is, Charles Johnson's 35, but still, former LFA champion, now getting Alex Perez. Alex Perez is the younger fighter. Alex Perez barely fights, obviously. He's had more activity recently, I'll say that. But Alex Perez has won one fight since the start of the pandemic. Yeah, I'm serious. And that one win is over Mateus Nicolau in a main event. He is 1-3 in his last 4 fights, and that's dating back to 2020. Actually, well, you can say 1-5 in his last 1-5 in his last 6 fights. My goodness. Yeah, that's bad. Or 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Still, that's not ideal. And that's dating back to 2020. So, lost to also Almabayev in his last fight. Almabayev's going to be fighting Brandon Moreno coming up. Lost to Tatsuro Taira. Taira, had his back and twisted his knee. Really odd stuff, but good win for Taira. The win over Nico Lau, losing to Muhammad Mokaev, losing it to Alexandre Pantoja, and prior to that, obviously, his championship bout against Deiveson Figueiredo. I don't think Perez offers much at this point of his career. I'm just going to be honest. I mean, Almabayev takes him down, submits him. Gets him in he took him down early in the fight, but gets the guillotine choke, obviously. The Taira fight, Perez was fighting all right until the knee injury happened, until, again, Taira purposely blew his knee out. Perez dealt with so many injuries over the course of his career, and he just now keeps losing. You're 33 now. Charles Johnson is a massive flyweight. He's 5'9", I think really 5'10". Perez 5'6". The clear striking advantage here goes to Charles Johnson, and in my opinion, Charles Johnson is just going to piece up Alex Perez this entire fight. Will he get a finish? I think so, man. Charles Johnson's just a flyweight who hits very hard and harder than most other fighters in the weight class. The knockout against Josh Van, the knockout against Lonnie Kavanaugh. I mean, that is a progressive thing throughout that fight, man. You can tell Johnson is hunting Lonnie Kavanaugh. He's walking Lonnie Kavanaugh down in China. Like, it was just again, Lonnie Kavanaugh fought all right early, but you saw Johnson continue to gain some confidence, continue to land, and you can see it. Okay, well, he's really finding his shots, and eventually Charles Johnson puts down Lonnie Kavanaugh and knocks him out. Again, Kavanaugh looked great early. Johnson continued to take that fight over. And he gets better as the fight goes on. Knocked out Van in the 3rd round, even though he fought well pretty much through the entirety of that fight. Johnson's a problem, man. Early in his career, got some really tough decisions. He's winning fights now. He has now won 5 out of his last 6, with the only loss being Tamirov in a mid-fight. But I gotta go Charles Johnson to beat Alex Perez. Massive opportunity. Obviously, you know why he's getting it. The Kavanaugh win and the fact, too, well, Josh Van's rise. Not just as champion, but just rise to the top in the activity. It's good for the sport if Charles Johnson keeps winning, too. And I believe he's going to beat Alex Perez here. I think we see a Charles Johnson knockout. Again, Perez, man, just too many L's. I know, again, he's the younger guy in this fight, but I don't know. There's so much wear and tear on Alex Perez. I think Charles Johnson's going to find that knockout. I'm going to go 2nd round TKO for Charles Johnson. Kind of like the Kavanaugh one, personally, I believe. Johnson's just going to hunt that knockout, and eventually he's going to get it. So, it can be Charles Energy Johnson to knock out Alex Perez. I'm going to go 2nd round TKO for the St. Louis, Missouri native in Charles Johnson. Why is Alex Perez's nickname The Decision? Who gave him that nickname? The Decision? Why? Wait, whoa, hold on. Why would you want to be nicknamed The Decision? Oh, I go 15 minutes? What? That's a crazy nickname. I just thought about that. That's odd. Next up. Oh, man. These next 2 fights, some of the biggest favorites we're going to see all year in the UFC, and they're in back-to-back fights. So, hopefully it makes our win-loss record look better, at the end of the year. Anyways, Atiba Gautier versus Andre Pulyaev. Good luck. I'm seeing some discourse online. People are, I'm seeing some tweets about Atiba Gautier and about how, he's just like a casuals, up-and-coming product. Nah, dude, trust me. Atiba Gautier is really good. I really believe so. Now, once he gets into the top 10, we'll see. I still am a believer that Atiba Gautier is probably going to be a champion at some point in time. I think he's a guy, again, who just hits like a truck at 185 pounds. I think he's going to be a light heavyweight, and that's why I think he's eventually going to win the championship, because look how weak light heavyweight is. I understand Hamzat might be coming up to 205. I don't know, man. I mean, we're going to be potentially seeing Yuri Prochazka get a 4th title fight at 205 pounds. Like, that weight class is a mess right now. And Perez potentially going up to 265. I don't know. Regardless, Atiba Gautier obviously is not going to finish his career at 85. He's 23 years old. You've seen the picture with him next to Strickland. Hell, you can see Atiba Gautier on the screen right now. The dude is massive. There's no way in 4 years when he's 27 he's going to be able to make this weight anymore. But for now, he's still fighting at 185. And by the way, too, not even to glaze at all, but look at this. Look at Atiba Gautier and look at Andre Pulyaev. These guys don't look like they're both 185 pounds. Is that not crazy? Look at these 2 guys. These 2 guys don't look like they weigh the same amount of weight. That looks like a 205 pounder fighting a 170 here. It really does. Now, Pulyaev does have a win in the UFC, but man, the run Gautier's on, not like he's beating the best guys, but it's just the fact and the way he's beating guys is, absurd. Not absurd, but like it's just dominance. And yeah, he's fought some low-level guys. I'll 100% say that. Pulyev's the best guy he's fought so far. Not like he's not going to just knock him out in the first round. Gautier knocks out Jose Medina, who, by the way, yeah, Jose Medina is getting another fight in the UFC. Shocker, he's fighting in Mexico. But yeah, they're giving Medina a fourth fight, even though he lost one in the Contender and 3 in a row in the UFC. Get another fight, why not? Gautier then beats Robert Valentin in the first round in New Orleans, and then it's supposed to fight Ozzy Diaz. Diaz pulls out, so he gets Tristan Vines instead. He's like a minus 1,500, minus 2,000 favorite. There you go. Knocks out Tristan Vines in the first round back in October on the Ankalaev Pereira 2 card. So he's going to get Andrei Pulyaev. Pulyaev, who's 1-1 in the UFC, had a very tough first out. I'll say this. Fought Christian Leroy Duncan. Lost the fight by unanimous decision to CLD, and then proceeded to get Nick Klein. Beat Klein by second round TKO. Got him with a body shot, folded him. Yeah, Nick Klein's not a very good UFC fighter. Okay, I'm just going to say that right now. Nick Klein's only in the UFC because he glazed Dana White after he won the Contender Series and said John Jones is the greatest fighter of all time. Okay? Kind of, right? I mean, Nick Klein was very inexperienced going into that one. Pulyaev gets the win. I thought Klein's wrestling was going to be big. It wasn't, so it is what it is. Gautier is going to dismantle Andrei Pulyaev, okay? I don't think you need me to tell you that. Gautier hits like a truck, and until we get actual competition for him at 85 and potentially 205 when eventually he makes that jump, no one's going to be close with him. I don't know how soon he's going to make that jump to 205 pounds. It's going to come soon, though. But for now, if he's going to stay at 85, who's the fight that I want him to have next? I want Roman Kopylov. I know Kopylov's lost back-to-back fights against Gregory Rodriguez and Paulo Costa, but that's the fight I want next for Atiba Gautier. Knowing the UFC, though, they're probably going to continue to build him up because they see potential here. Obviously, they see a big star, obviously, who hits like a truck from Africa. I'm thinking Jack Hermanson. No shot, right? No, I'm not going to do that. They'll do... What's like a crappy fight they can get him next? Rodriguez Dumas. Like, I don't know. GM3. You got to pass the GM3 test, pal. Something like that. I think they're going to give Atiba Gautier. They'll build him up slowly. Maybe Andre Petrosky. Give him a wrestler. Let him stuff a couple takedowns. Then boom, put him out. Type of fight like that. Like, they're going to continue to build up Gautier slowly. He's only 23. That's a young star that they have. When the UFC ever decides to go to Africa, they can bring Gautier there, but they're never going to do it because, you know, I give the PFL a lot of crap. They go the places the UFC refuse to go. They're going to Spain in a couple months. They go to Africa all the time now. The UFC eventually will go there. PFL, Bellator's gone to Hawaii. UFC never does. Whatever. Atiba Gautier is going to knock out Andrei Pulyaev in the first round. Dude, it's like a truck. I've been on Gautier since he's on the Contender Series. Saw the talent from there. He's going to be very good for a very long time. Atiba Gautier knocks out Andrei Pulyaev. Goes to 4-0 in the UFC with a first-round knockout win on Paramount. Big stage. The UFC wants this, and it's going to be a nasty knockout. Trust me. Give me Atiba Gautier from Cameroon. On now to our next fight, and somehow, someway, we have an even bigger favorite. That is obviously Umar Nurmagomedov, as he works his way back to a title fight, potentially taking on Deuce de Guerra, Deiveson Figueiredo. So, I have my thoughts about this, that I believe Umar actually might get a title shot off this win. I have a feeling the UFC is going to hold Merab out, do Umar versus Jan, and then let Merab fight the winner. I don't know. I have a feeling they want the belt on the Nurmagomedov, and I think Nurmagomedov versus Merab 2 does more money than potentially... Well, I think Umar does more money than Jan and Merab, just because of the last name, and he's got all these fans. Regardless, Umar is going to take on Deiveson Figueiredo. Does anyone have any doubts that Umar's not going to win this fight? Because if you do, I'd like to hear it. I'll say that. I don't think Umar's going to have any trouble beating Deiveson Figueiredo. Figueiredo, I will give him credit. He's coming off a big victory. I thought he was kind of done going into the Montel Jackson fight. We had been waiting for a long time for Montel Jackson to finally get a big fight like that. It was close. They give the split decision to Figueiredo. I have no complaints. I picked Montel Jackson. I've been very high on Montel Jackson for a long time. When the scorecards are read, it was a split decision. I kind of had a feeling it was going to go to Deiveson, and honestly, Montel didn't do enough to win the fight. It was a competitive one. Good on Figueiredo for getting it done. It is what it is. So now Figueiredo automatically is actually back in a number one contenders fight, or close to that at least. I mean, hell, he lost the Jan fight where it was a competitive 5-round fight. It was, but Jan wins. He loses to Sandhagen, where we didn't know if that was just Figueiredo coming into that fight washed. Is he, hurt? Is he just old and doesn't care anymore? Is he there to get a paycheck? I don't know. Goes out with the arm injury against the knee injury against Corey Sandhagen, and then beats Montel Jackson in a very uneventful fight, in all fairness. I mean, in total, there were 53 significant strikes landed in that fight, and Montel Jackson actually had more. Jackson landed 30 total strikes or significant strikes, and Figueiredo landed 23 significant strikes. Obviously, there was wrestling involved, and Figueiredo found some success getting multiple takedowns on Montel Jackson, but again, just not a very entertaining bout. But I guess you give Figueiredo rounds 1 and 3. Fight was in Brazil, so they give it to Deuce Tiguera in a co-main event. Okay, sure. Big name, I guess, former champion. How does he beat Umar? What, he gets lucky and stiffs him with a punch? Guys, I mean, a lot has been, we've talked about quite a bit, and obviously we've seen it. Deiveson Figueiredo was a monster at 125. All that knockout power, and that was on perfect display, obviously, in back-to-back fights against Joseph Benavidez. He looked like a killer in those fights. I mean, when Benavidez fought Figueiredo twice in a row, and the way Figgy beat him back-to-back fights, you're looking at Figueiredo like, is anybody ever going to beat this guy at 25? Because he hit like a truck. And again, Benavidez folded every single time Deuce Tiguera touched him. And then he beat Alex Perez, and then obviously ran into the 4 fights against Moreno. Ended up going 1-2-1 against Moreno, but he hasn't knocked anybody out since. He's gotten some good wins, Rob Font, Garbrandt, Chito Vera, Montel Jackson, but Deiveson's, I will always say he has power, but the pure one-punch knockout power is gone. And that's what happens when you go up to 35 and you're fighting, bigger guys. And again, 125 is a whole different thing. And obviously what Figueiredo did at the time when he won the championship was revolutionary for 25. We hadn't seen a knockout puncher like Figueiredo at that point in time at 125 pounds. Now you're at 35. These guys just hit a little bit harder. They're used to, getting hit by harder guys. And Figueiredo is just older. There's less on these shots. He's 38. Obviously he was, killing himself to make 125, but he's just older now. And Umar, guys, I'm sorry. I want Figgy to win, just for the hell of it. I think it would be chaos, and I'd love it. But, Umar is not going to have a problem in this fight, guys. Umar is going to run circles around Deuce Tiguera. His last fight against Mario Bautista was not entertaining. Mario Bautista does knock Umar down in the second round. Umar still wins 30-27. Not much happens, but Umar takedown, strike, volume strike, jab, takedown. No significant strikes. He's just throwing it out there to throw it out there. Just up, throw, takedown. Drag you down. Get back up. Put you back down. It's not entertaining. I mean, can you name an entertaining Umar fight other than the Merab fight? No. But he wins. So what are we going to say? Can Jan beat him? I think so. Can Merab beat him again? Obviously. I think both those guys probably beat Umar. Does Jan? I don't know. It's just, we might get one of those scenarios too at 135 where, Umar can beat Jan can beat Merab can beat Umar. Even though, I don't know. How does Merab beat Jan a second time? I think he can. Regardless, I'm going to go Umar here, guys. This is all the making to be a boring fight. There's a reason, by the way, the UFC kept this on the undercard and not even the featured prelim, and obviously didn't promote it to the main card with Natalia Silva and Rose Namajunas going up there. Just saying, there's a reason to that. They don't think this fight's going to be great, and obviously, why would you? Look at Umar's last fight. Pathway of least resistance for Umar Nurmagomedov. Don't get hit by the power shots of Deiveson. Take him down, hold him down. He's 38. You're much better. So I'm going to go Umar Nurmagomedov to beat Deiveson Figueiredo by decision. Obviously, he's a minus 1,600 favorite. That's absurd. On to our next fight. Our featured prelim is Nikita Krylov and Modestas Bukauskas. I have a feeling this is going to be changed and the bout order is going to be changed. And I think it'll probably end up being Deiveson versus Umar, but if it is Bukauskas and Krylov, as I still have it for now, I'm recording this video on Thursday. I'll say that. The video, obviously, you're seeing it on Friday or later, so maybe the bout order does get changed until then. But regardless, as of now, the featured prelim is still listed as Nikita Krylov versus Modestas Bukauskas. I assume that's going to get changed. But anyways, here it is. In the light heavyweight division, Nikita Krylov is back again, fighting Modestas Bukauskas. And guys, ever since Krylov was thought to be dead, seriously, there was a thought process at one point in time that we didn't know if this guy was alive or not. When that, he's gotten much worse since the almost death, the near-death experience for Krylov. I don't even know if he was in any danger, obviously, on the Russia-Ukraine border, but we didn't know what was going on with this guy. He hadn't done any interviews. Again, there was a big belief around the MMA community that he wasn't alive anymore. He's returned, and he hasn't fought that well. Nikita Krylov comes back again. We had said, and I believe it too, and I stand by this. At the time, one of the more underrated guys in the weight class. He was coming off of 3 consecutive victories, knocking out Alexander Gustafsson, beating Volkan Oezdemir, beating Ryan Spann, and then fought Dominic Reyes, coming off a 2-year layoff, but getting a Dominic Reyes fight, main card of a pay-per-view in Miami, Florida, huge spot, and boom, Dominic Reyes knocks him out. Krylov comes back, probably too soon, 3 months later, Bogdan Guskov knocks him out. It's a problem. Krylov's chin, I guess, is all of a sudden just gone. And I cannot pick him again coming off of back-to-back L's in the fashion in which he got knocked out. Bukauskas, is he on the level of Guskov? Is he on the level of Reyes? No, he's not. But still, I'm taking Modestas to get this victory. Bukauskas coming off a knockout victory, TKO victory over Paul Craig. That was a ground and pound finish for Modestas Bukauskas. But a guy who does have knockout power. We saw that in the Rafael Cortes-Acosta fight. I know that guy's one of the worst UFC fighters ever, but we've seen the knockout power out of Bukauskas, and he has put together now a 4-fight winning streak, beating Marcin Prachnio, Cortes, Ion Cutelaba, and Paul Craig in the second stint for Modestas Bukauskas after being cut the first time after a loss to Khalil Roundtree of all people. He's 6-1. So the second run in the UFC for Bukauskas has been phenomenal. And this is the fight where he can finally make that jump into being a potentially top 15 fighter. I don't think he's currently ranked. You never know, because light heavyweight is legitimately one of the weakest weight classes currently in the UFC, so I have to make sure he's not ranked. He's not, but this is the fight, obviously, that's going to get him in the rankings, because Krylov is ranked 13th. Again, it's a piss-poor division, 205 pounds, but this is the fight that gets Bukauskas in that top 15. This is the fight, again, where he can make that next step. And ultimately, I do think he's going to knock out Krylov, man. I'm watching Krylov. He doesn't respond well to getting hit anymore. He's not defending anything. He leaves himself wide open to get hit. And in the past, again, I didn't think Krylov's striking defense wasn't that bad in the past. But, he can't take punches anymore, too. So it's one thing, again, if, you got to be able to take some sort of punch, ultimately, right? So your striking defense, obviously, it is what it is. But at the same time, you got to be able to take a punch. Krylov can't take a punch anymore. Both those fights against Reyes and Guskov don't get out of the first round. And it's really the first big shot Reyes and Guskov throw and land on Krylov, he goes down. I'm supposed to believe he can beat Bukauskas. Guys, I still think Krylov at his best can be really good, but at the same time, Krylov has looked slow on the feet since he's returned. We have not seen him go to that wrestling that we know Krylov, to be somewhat successful in doing so. He didn't even attempt to take that against Guskov. The Dominic Reyes fight only lasted 2 minutes, and by the time, again, Krylov could get completely acclimated to being back in the octagon, he got knocked out. But there has not been a single takedown attempted by Krylov yet in his return. Maybe we see it tonight, and that's got to be the pathway to success for him against Bukauskas, but Bukauskas is a guy who barely gets taken down either. Bukauskas' 80% takedown defense rate in the UFC. Obviously, we think of Krylov at a higher level than Bukauskas, sure, but hell, we haven't seen it recently. So I'm going to go Modestas Bukauskas here. I will tell you this, not a high confidence pick, not at all. Bukauskas is a favorite in this one. I understand why. Bukauskas minus 170, Krylov plus 135. But if we do get a vintage Nikita Krylov performance, he should win. Krylov should be able to take down Bukauskas, you would think. But with the doubts about his chin and the piss-poor striking game recently, I can't rely on a victory for Krylov. I have to go with Modestas Bukauskas here. And if I'm picking Bukauskas, unfortunately, I have to pick Krylov to get knocked down in the first round. So I'm going to go with the Lithuanian here, fighting out of England, and Modestas Bukauskas to pick up the biggest win of his career, knocking out Nikita Krylov in the very first round. I think that first big shot that lands is going to put down Krylov, as we've already seen so far in this return. Give me the Baltic Gladiator by first round knockout. On to the main card opener in the flyweight division, the women's flyweight division, as we've got Natalia Silva fighting Rose Namajunas. A very odd fight. Because, guys, this was originally supposed to be Alexa Grasso versus Rose Namajunas. Grasso gets injured. She's now been rebooked to fight, I'm blanking, she's fighting someone half decent. Macy Barber? Yeah, Macy Barber she's fighting in March. But, again, this was supposed to be Grasso and Namajunas buried on the undercard. Grasso gets injured. Who steps in for her? Natalia Silva. Which, hold on, that's weird because Natalia Silva just beat Alexa Grasso and should be already fighting for the world championship. But yet now she has to step in for Grasso. I'm sure she wanted the fight, Silva, but she's stepping in for Grasso now, and she's fighting Thug Rose. It's a big name to get to your resume, I understand. And Natalia Silva, I'm sure from her perspective, said and thought, well, the UFC's not going to give me a title fight, so I got to go out here and make them give me a shot by going out and beating a former champion who has arguably the biggest name at 125 other than the current champion, obviously, in Valentina Shevchenko. So good on Natalia Silva for staying active and getting fights. I'll tell you that she is going to walk circles around Rose Namajunas here. Natalia Silva is the best fighter at women's flyweight in the world right now, other than potentially Dakota Ditcheva. That's how I see it. I don't think Shevchenko can beat Natalia Silva. Obviously, Silva's gonna have to stuff some takedowns from that old woman Shevchenko who just wrestles, and is boring as hell. We need to get her out as world champion. Okay, I'm sick of watching Valentina boring fights. Okay, we can't do it for 25 minutes every single night. Okay, Natalia Silva is entertaining. She's a fun kickboxer who I think has good enough takedown defense to obviously eventually beat Valentina. She's been taken down, I believe, once in her entire UFC career by Arujau. I think that's it. 92% takedown defense rate for Natalia Silva. We'll take that. Anyways, this is not about Silva Shevchenko. By the way, who's Shevchenko going to fight next? I don't know. Is she going to go up to 35? Probably not now. She's going to have to fight Natalia Silva. Natalia Silva is forcing her way now to a title fight. Likely, I think, probably in April in Miami. I think that's going to be Shevchenko's next title defense. And this is a perfect stepping stone. Yes, Namajunas is a stepping stone for Natalia Silva. Again, Namajunas coming off a big victory over Miranda Maverick. Not a great fight, but Namajunas gets it done. I think it was a co-main event. Knocks down Miranda Maverick, controls her on the ground. This should be a good test for Natalia Silva because she will have to deal with the wrestling out of Rose. But I'm not concerned. I'm really not. We see the higher level 125 fighters can beat Namajunas. Manon Fior, Erin Blanchfield. Obviously, Namajunas has never gotten her fight, and at one point in time was considered a super fight between her and Valentina. She just hasn't worked her way up until that point yet. And she probably won't ever, because, I mean, there are fighters like Silva who she's still fighting. And full transparency, I expected Alexa Grasso to likely beat Rose as well. And obviously, MMA math doesn't always work like that. Oh, just because Silva beat Grasso, you know, we should expect her to beat Rose as well. But yeah, she's going to. Silva's got a great striking game. She's a very dynamic kickboxer, and again, the best kickboxer I believe in the world at 125, potentially other than Dakota Ditcheva. I do believe Ditcheva is just that good, and that's the PFL's one claim to fame, that they have the best fighter in the world at 125 pounds in the women's weight classes. Undoubtedly, not undoubtedly, but I think they have a very clear claim to it, obviously, with their world champion in Dakota Ditcheva, who I guess just got pulled from their last card. She's supposed to fight Kia Holtz, but I don't know what the hell's going on. She's said she's supposed to fight Liz Carmouche, but Carmouche is waiting, or they're going to have to wait till July. I don't know what's going on in the PFL. But regardless, Natalia Silva, Dakota Ditcheva, 1A, 1B at flyweight. Shevchenko's underneath both of them. Both these two, by the way, Silva and Ditcheva actually fight. Shevchenko's looking to lay on you for 25 minutes. So Natalia Silva will be the savior of women's flyweight. Don't forget, too, Shevchenko's only getting older. Silva, 10 years younger than Valentina Shevchenko. Natalia Silva is going to run circles around Rose Namajunas in this fight. I just don't think Namajunas is going to be able to get going. I think we're going to see her look to take the fight down, because I do believe there is a huge gap in skill on the feet. My goodness, in the striking game between Silva and Namajunas. But I just don't think Namajunas is going to be able to get close. I think Silva's going to use her boxing and, well, just kickboxing in general to keep Namajunas away. And I really just don't think Rose is going to see any success. I think we see a 3-round domination out of Natalia Silva, really booking her spot next to be the next title challenger. I mean, who else are you going to give it to? You're going to give it to Erin Blanchfield? You're going to give it to... There's no one else you can give it to at all. I mean, Barber and Grasso are fighting each other. It has to be Natalia Silva next. She beats Rose Namajunas. She gets a world championship fight. Absolutely, Natalia Silva beats Rose Namajunas by unanimous decision. As we move on now to our next fight in the featherweight division, a big one. Arnold Allen takes on Gene Silva. The Fighting Nerds, are they in disarray? I don't know. Well, Mauricio Hufi splits from the gym, but obviously Fighting Nerds is still going strong with Gene Silva as he takes on Arnold Allen here in an interesting one in the featherweight division. Arnold Allen coming off of a win over Giga Chikadze back in 2024. It's been a year and a half since Arnold Allen's last fight, beating Chikadze by unanimous decision. And as for Gene Silva, coming off of potentially the fight of the year last year over on Noche against one Diego Lopez, who somehow is fighting for a world championship next week. Like, are we not going to continue to talk about that? How did that happen? We just saw Volk versus Lopez, and they're going to do it again, because why not? Whatever, man. Arnold Allen taking on Gene Silva. Silva just lost to Diego Lopez, which somehow got Diego Lopez a title fight, which made me think also, wait, hold on. They were trying to give Silva a title fight if he beat Diego Lopez. Anyways, Silva coming off his first L in the UFC, and what a phenomenal fight that was. Back and forth again, one of the better fights you're ever going to watch. Looks like Gene Silva's got that edge early. Well, Diego Lopez has it early. Then obviously Gene Silva kind of turns the tides in the second round, but then Diego Lopez obviously drops him, wins the fight. Phenomenal bout. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. Yes, is Gene Silva a little flawed striking because of this, straight striking defense? Kind of, but that's just how crazy Diego Lopez throws, and that's honestly just how good Diego Lopez is. Dude hits like a truck. You don't want to be in there with that guy. Watch out. But legitimately, I mean, Lopez is a tough guy to beat, and you have to be really skilled like an, Alex Volkanovski to beat him. Again, I'll say this. Lopez is flawed striking-wise, but you have to be the elite of the elite to beat him, and obviously that's what Volk is, and come back next week. Tell you what I think about that fight. I think the same thing happens. Anyways, Gene Silva, Arnold Allen this week. I think Gene Silva is going to get Arnold Allen. I don't like the inactivity out of Allen, not fighting since the summer of 24. Allen's last couple fights, lost to Max Holloway, main event in Kansas City, lost to Mosvar in a horrible fight, one of the worst fights you're going to watch. I mean, it's just so uneventful. I thought Mosvar won, but I mean, Dana was pissed. Everyone was pissed. It was probably one of the worst pay-per-views of all time, UFC 297. Other than the main event, that card sucked. And, I guess the Neil Magny comeback. But regardless, Mosvar beats Arnold Allen. Allen comes back and beats Giga in a very forgettable fight. I'll tell you this, before I, went back and rewatched it, and I didn't really, I just didn't really care to I rewatched it, I didn't really get much out of it. No, Arnold Allen won. He won 2-1. But it was a fight that before I rewatched it, I did not remember a single thing about that original fight. I didn't. I completely forgot Giga and Arnold Allen happened. Because it was so long ago, it was a main card fight. I mean, I remember watching Gregory Rodriguez and CLD. I remember watching Patty and Bobby Green. For some reason, Arnold Allen, Giga Chikadze. I remember watching Nathaniel Wood, Daniel Pineda. I remember laughing that Molly McCann lost to Bruno Bazil. Arnold Allen, Giga Chikadze, I just kind of slipped my mind that it happened. And it's not a very eventful fight. Allen wins, and obviously Giga at this point of his career, and even back then still is, was not at the top of his game. Obviously just got knocked out by Kevin Vallejos in the Apex. But a good win for Allen, but now considering it, okay, well, Giga's lost to Onama and Vallejos in back-to-back fights. How great of a victory is that for Arnold Allen, and not in the most impressive fashion. I just think Gene Silva really brings it to him on the feet, and I don't think Arnold Allen I don't think he's got the power to keep up. I mean, last time we've seen Allen put anybody down was the Dan Hooker fight, and that was Hooker coming down from 55 to 45, or I guess the Super Sodiq Youssef fight. He obviously knocked down Youssef, ended up winning by decision. I guess Cater, but Cater was a leg kick. So, I mean, we haven't seen Allen really put anybody away, and I don't think he can put together 15 minutes of, good enough striking to all-around beat Gene Silva. Gene Silva, we know, again, hits hard as hell. Ran into the wrong guy, Diego Lopez. That's okay. Prior to that, again, the run, Jourdain, Dober, Bagdasarian, Bryce Mitchell, obviously the fight that had, some crazy, crazy hype up for that fight. Don't forget, I mean, that was UFC 314 in April last year, man. Was that a time getting ready for Bryce Mitchell and Gene Silva. But I just don't think Allen has a good enough striking game to keep up with Silva. Again, I know Allen's more technically skilled. He can try to out-volume Gene Silva. When it gets down to it, though, I mean, Gene Silva is going to try to walk you down and knock you out. I just don't know if Allen's really ready for that fight. And with the inactivity out of Arnold Allen as well, here's something to put in perspective, right? Gene Silva, this last 4-fight run, Dober, Bagdasarian, Mitchell, Lopez, all 4 of those fights happened after Arnold Allen's last fight. Just think about that. I mean, this entire run, Gene Silva rising to prominence, has all happened with Arnold Allen on, just sitting on the sidelines. I believe there's an injury in there, whatever. I got to go Gene Silva. I think the inactivity out of Allen's going to really hurt him here, and I just don't think he's ready for Gene Silva when Silva walks him down and tries to put him on his ass. So I got to go Gene Lord Silva here. I'm going to go with the Fighting Nerds' own Silva getting a win back for the gym. Obviously, they lost Hoofy, so, trying to get another win back for the gym. Give me Gene Silva to win this fight. I'm going to go second round knockout for Silva. I think it's a matter of time before he finds that knockout. I think he's going to be walking down Allen for most of the fight. I think Allen's going to be struggling off his back foot, and eventually Gene Silva's going to find that one big shot. Again, inactivity does not help you in this game, so I'm going to go Gene Silva to knock out Arnold Allen in the second round. On to our featured fight of the night, we go to the heavyweight division. Waldo Cortes-Acosta takes on the Black Beast, Derek Lewis. Such a difficult fight, man. I know, again, the way you can look at this fight, on paper, well, Waldo should be able to kick the hell out of Lewis's legs. He should be able to go out there and just jab him up. You'd think, but it's Derek Lewis. I mean, you can throw every, technical breakdown and everything. You can throw that out of the window when Derek Lewis fights, because it is just different when the Black Beast is in there. I mean, hell, everyone was taking Taliesin Teixeira to beat him in Nashville over the summer. What happened? Derek Lewis knocked him out. We called it, by the way. First round knockout for Derek Lewis, right on the button. Same, hey, I just don't want to keep patting myself on the back, but did call Derek Lewis beating Curtis Blades back in 2020, back in the Apex, like plus 300 something too. So we've been pretty good on Derek Lewis big upset picks, and guys, I'm gonna do it again. Ooh, man. I'm taking Derek Lewis, and I'll break this down, obviously. I'm taking Derek Lewis to knock out Waldo Cortes-Acosta in the first round. Plus 240 for Derek Lewis. Actually, slightly less of an underdog as he was, or than he was, against Taliesin Teixeira just in the summer in Nashville, Tennessee. I think he's going to put Cortes-Acosta down. Something that has not happened to Waldo so far in the UFC, and ever in his career, is losing by knockout. He hasn't faced anyone like Derek Lewis yet. You don't train for Derek Lewis. You don't know what Derek Lewis is going to throw at you. Derek Lewis, I mean, he'll fake an injury and he'll throw a big shot at you. You know, we thought, oh, he was hurt early against Taliesin Teixeira. No, big right hand puts him down. It's just what Derek Lewis does. Who's the more all-around skillful fighter? It's Waldo. Not going to deny that. I think Waldo is extremely skilled. And I like that Waldo's trying to stay active. The fact that Waldo wanted to fight for a 6th time last year, great stuff, right? Flew cross the world, to fight Shamil Gaziev on short notice in Qatar, wins the fight, knocks out Burger Man Gaziev, and still wants to fight again in the Apex at the end of the year. Doesn't get his last fight. Was rumored to potentially be a Derek Lewis. Instead, here he is getting Derek Lewis first quarter of the year on the first pay-per-view and first card of the year. There's multiple reasons I'm taking Derek Lewis. The one is the power, and Waldo hasn't felt power like this before. You can say, well, he fought Sergey Pavlovich. Sergey, unfortunately, guys, is becoming just a volume, jab-heavy kickboxer. I'm sorry, but that's what really is boxer. That's what Pavlovich has become. And that's probably a result of getting knocked out by Tom Aspinall and Alexander Volkov styling on him for 15 minutes as well. That's unfortunately what Pavlovich has become. So, Waldo did not see the Sergey Pavlovich in that fight. He did not see those, knockout hands from Pavlovich. He fought him to a 3-round decision, but didn't see, again, the best version of Sergey Pavlovich, and Pavlovich's power at its best. Beat Ante Dillia, did Waldo Cortes-Acosta in a really weird fight. A very odd one, but Cortes-Acosta gets the victory, wins it by first round knockout on that Garcia Onama card, then fights 3 weeks later. It is what it is. I mean, I think, again, Dillia, I saw him fight in the PFL. I saw Ante Dillia get knocked down in the PFL by Vlatin Moldavsky. I was never moved by Dillia's UFC run. He's going to fight Spivak later in the year. I'll probably beat him, but I don't know. Again, just Dillia is not a serious threat for the title. I don't know why anyone ever thought he was. Oh, just because he trains with Tom Aspinall. Come on now. No way. Waldo now getting Derek Lewis. It's a different type of fight. And why do I like Derek Lewis so much? Derek Lewis is calling for this fight. And that's very telling. Because Derek Lewis going into the Taliesin Teixeira fight had said, yeah, I don't really care who I fight. I don't know who I'm fighting. Like, he said this straight up. I don't know who Taliesin Teixeira is. I don't care who I fight from here on out. I just want to keep knocking out bums and extending the knockout streak and get paid. But then after he beat Taliesin, he called Waldo out. He said, I want to fight that Where's Waldo guy. Something along the lines of that. And that's very telling, that Lewis actually had a call out and actually had a guy that he wanted. I think he said something along the lines of, Waldo's been talking crap. I want to go fight him. That's telling. Because Lewis is at a position in his career. He's 40 years old. He's the knockout king in the UFC. 20 wins in the promotion. He can kind of call his shots. For the most part, unless it's obviously like not a title fight. If he wants Waldo, they're going to give him Waldo. And that's exactly what happened. But again, I think there's a reason why Lewis wants this fight. He thinks he can beat Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Because again, Lewis has said he doesn't watch fights. He doesn't watch film much on guys. He doesn't care who he fights. He's going to go out there and try to do the same thing he does in every fight. That's knock you out with the big right hand. Actually knocked out Teixeira with the left hook. But regardless, right? Like, that's what Lewis is going to do to you. He specifically called Cortes-Acosta out. I'm a little concerned with the leg kicks. I'm a little concerned with the volume from Cortes-Acosta. It only takes one, though, for Derek Lewis. And I do think, again, it's very meaningful that Lewis actually wanted the fight in the first place. One last thing I'm going to mention on this fight, and I think it's very huge. If Derek Lewis wins against Waldo Cortes-Acosta and Tom Aspinall is not ready to fight in the summer and for the White House, Derek Lewis is fighting for the World Championship. Interim, undisputed, don't know. Derek Lewis will get a title fight at the White House. Why? Dana White has not said a single thing about the White House card in terms of, every reporter's going to ask him, who's going to be on the White House card? And Dana gives the same answer. Too far out. The only thing Dana's ever said about the White House card, I don't remember what press conference it was, but I remember watching it. Dana said, yeah, we don't know who's going to be on the White House yet, except for, the president keeps telling me he really wants to watch Derek Lewis in the White House, on the White House card. So Derek's got a big fight coming up because the president wants to watch him. That's the only request he's made. So if Donald Trump has asked for Derek Lewis, he's going to get Derek Lewis, okay? If that's the only fighter Trump's asking for, he's going to be on the White House card. So Derek Lewis is going to be on the card. Win or loss, obviously, he's going to, even if he loses, they'll throw him on the undercard, and, Lewis will probably fight some bum and probably knock him out. It'll be great. But Lewis will be on the White House card. If Trump's specifically asking for him, if Lewis wins this fight, Dana's going to give him a title fight. I mean, if Trump's asking for it, Dana's going to give it to him. So I'm just putting that out there. Huge fight for Lewis. If he wins, we're talking potentially Gane rematch. I don't know if I love that. We're talking John Jones. John Jones specifically called for Lewis in the past. We're talking Aspinall. We're talking one of those fights. I just want to put that out there. Lewis knocks out Cortes-Acosta. I think he's going to find that shot. I think it's written, man. I mean, it's just part of the script. Lewis needs to win so he can get a big White House fight. Derek Lewis knocks out Waldor Cortes-Acosta in the first round. Next up, co-main event, obviously bumped from the featured fight originally. Suga, Sean O'Malley takes on Song Yadong. Again, it's supposed to be this fight, well, in the spot, Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes. Now Suga Sean versus Song Yadong. I think it's an interesting fight, right? Sean O'Malley, back-to-back fights, both fighting Merab Dvalishvili. Loses the first fight in the Sphere, gets the rematch, goes complete, locks in for the fight, does some stuff to get ready for that fight. Loses. Gets subbed in the third round. Merab beats him on the feet, and eventually Merab takes him down, submits him with the north-south choke, ultimately retaining his title. It was a very undeserved rematch for Suga Sean, but he gets the fight, and the UFC basically books themselves into a corner by having Merab fight O'Malley for the second time, because, Merab wins both, and now where does O'Malley go from there? Well, luckily, and Sean has said it himself, he's back in the picture. And this is another thing we need to talk about, potentially Umar getting a title fight. Well, if Sean beats Song Yadong, who's got a win over Petr Yan? Sean O'Malley. Is it a deserved win? Did anybody actually believe he beat Petr Yan? Not really. I didn't think so. But a win is a win. It's a fight that ultimately got Sean O'Malley to be the number one contender and beat, potentially the greatest bantamweight of all time in Aljamain Sterling. So here you go. Suga Sean is now a fight away from the belt if he's impressive and if he can put down Song Yadong. Which, Song's really good. I'll tell you that. Song, we forget about this all the time with him. He's so young still. Well, 28, he's not like 26 anymore, but still a guy who's still entering his prime. Sean, 31. Song has been around for so long, but, cracked into the top 15 and really became, a prominent fighter at such a young age. He's now got that victory over Henry Cejudo, which we do need to talk about. That fight was 2-1 going into the third. Cejudo finished his career, obviously, in the worst way imaginable, losing to Peyton Talbot. Yes, it was a good fighter. Cejudo gave it his all, but, going out losing to Peyton Talbot's, I don't know, man. He's going to go and do Real American Freestyle and obviously actually wrestle Song Yadong's coach in his next fight. Obviously, I'm talking about the California kid, Uriah Faber. That's the next RIF card. But still, Song Yadong beats Henry Cejudo, but does he really? Again, Jason Herzog weirdness. I'll never forget this one. It's 2-1 going into the third round. It's still in the third round. Song pokes Henry Cejudo in the eye in the third round. Cejudo can't see anymore. So Herzog says, oh, we got 10 seconds left in the round. I need to restart the round. And by the way, I'm going to make you fight on an eye where you can't see. Why does nobody talk about this, by the way? I'm going to make you fight where you can't see out of your eye for a whole 10 seconds so we can get to the technical decision. No! The rule is it's a no contest. As someone who had Cejudo money line, I was pissed. You don't restart that fight. The fight's over. We don't need to force a decision. We don't need to force a winner. The rule is not, you haven't gotten into the fourth round. You haven't completed 3 rounds. It's a no contest. But Herzog felt so inclined to restart the fight and have Cejudo fight on a shut eye for 10 seconds. And then as soon as they got back in the corner, fight's over. What? He restarted the fight. You kept fighting. Technically, he made Cejudo fight. So should that be a TKO technically? Because now he can't come out of the corner? Ridiculous stuff. I will never forgive Herzog for that. How does he still have a job? I thought he was being, where was the investigation from the FBI? Herzog's cleared? Are we dead ass? Because that was crap. That's Song's last win, though. An asterisk against Cejudo. Was he likely going to win if it went 5 rounds? Yes, probably. But you never know. Cejudo was doing all right until the eye poke. But yeah, Song won the third, Cejudo won the second, Song won the first. Okay, but the third round never should have ended. So Herzog's crooked. I will remain adamant on that fact. That was ridiculous, and nobody ever talks about that as well. Just gets lost. Oh, well, Song was going to win anyway. Well, you don't know. I mean, Cejudo was getting better as that fight went on. Couldn't get a takedown, but still, you just don't know. Song's won 3 of 4, but again, it's like, okay, Ricky Simone finish, all right, in the Apex. Chris Gutierrez, Petr Yan lost, looked good early, and obviously, it's just a Petr Yan fight. He downloads everything in the first round, and then second and third round, Yan beats Song Yadong's ass, and then Song goes out and gets the, Mickey Mouse win over Henry Cejudo. For O'Malley, he's not won a fight since the Cheeto victory back in March of 2024. My goodness, that was a long time ago, but obviously got stuck fighting Merab twice. Only fought once in 2025. He's back, and he's focused now going into 2026, and there is newfound life, honestly, for Sean O'Malley, because, yes, he believes he's a fight away from the title, and he should believe that. And obviously, with the UFC's backing of him, it would be a very undeserved title fight, but you can make the case that Sugar Sean should be next in line if he does beat Song because of his history and his win over the current champion in Petr Yan. So I think Sean's going to beat Song Yadong, though. I look at this fight. I don't think Song can out-kickbox Sean O'Malley. I don't think it's going to happen. I think O'Malley's got a better striking game. I think O'Malley's quicker. I think O'Malley hits harder. Is he quicker than Song? I believe he has to be. I mean, I can break this fight down as many ways as I can. Whoever the better striker is going to win. You're not going to see this fight hit the mat. I don't think Song's going to try a takedown. Obviously, we're not going to see O'Malley do that. It's going to be a striking fight. I think O'Malley is just going to be able to win a competitive decision. I think this one goes the distance, but I just don't think Song Yadong is a better pure striker than Sean O'Malley. And obviously the odds are going to indicate that as well. I mean, O'Malley's expected to win the fight. I'm seeing as, obviously when I made the graphic, minus 215 for O'Malley, I'm seeing up to minus 250 for Sugar Sean. More than expected to win this fight. I do think, I think that jab's going to be huge out of O'Malley. I think it's going to really disrupt what Song Yadong can get going. It's what we saw Yan really hit him with as that fight went on. Just kept throwing the jab out there and affected everything Song Yadong was, capable of doing. Also, Sean's going to have a huge reach advantage. Again, that reach and that jab's going to be huge. O'Malley, 5'11", Song Yadong, 5'8". Sean, 72-inch reach. Song Yadong, 67-inch reach. Anyways. Sean O'Malley's going to win this fight, and I think he's going to win it by decision. Big spot for him, Paramount card. This is really, if he loses, what is next for Sean O'Malley? Think about this too. Back against the wall, O'Malley needs to win this fight to remain, a big player in the bantamweight division. I think he does get it done. Sugar Sean beats Song Yadong by unanimous decision. On to the main event. For the interim lightweight championship of the world, winner will be fighting likely Ilia Topuria, because UFC does not want to give Arman a title fight, which I guess the headbutt, whatever. Gaethje versus Pimblett for the interim title. My guess is the winner will be fighting Ilia Topuria, likely on the White House lawn in June. I do need to get this out the way. Is this Gaethje's last fight? I think it may be. If Gaethje does not win, I believe Gaethje's pretty set on this one being his last one. I have a feeling the UFC is going to offer him some money to go fight on the White House for his final fight, so he can have one more. Obviously, Gaethje, no secret, big Trump guy is Justin Gaethje. I have a feeling he's going to want to do that if they give him the opportunity, and Gaethje has talked about wanting to fight on the White House card. Obviously, he's talking about fighting for the championship on the White House lawn, but we'll see. I think he'll have one more. I think they're going to give him like somewhat of a legacy fight. Probably a BMF fight is my guess. Probably a Holloway fight on the White House lawn is my guess. But whatever, we'll see. Holloway, Oliveira winner, but likely Holloway. But if Gaethje loses, he could retire. And obviously, Gaethje was threatening the UFC with retirement if he did not get a title fight in his next one, because he did the company a favor by fighting Fiziev, and he won. Good win for Justin Gaethje, but he was threatening, I'm just going to retire if you don't give me that title shot. He gets it, kind of, against Paddy, and Gaethje now gets a chance to become a two-time interim lightweight champion, obviously winning it the first time at UFC 249 in Jacksonville against one Tony Ferguson. So, can Gaethje actually beat Paddy Pimblett? Well, the odds indicate Pimblett is a favorite, and he should be, I believe. You look at the way Paddy's fought, and I know it's only Michael Chandler, and Chandler's made a career out of losing fun fights, but the way Paddy goes out there and just dominates Michael Chandler, yeah, that is one-way traffic. Chandler's only source of offense is the takedowns. Other than that, Paddy completely dominates that fight. Ones and twos, Chandler's face off. Seriously. Chandler is a bloody mess at the end of that bout. Paddy wins the fight by TKO on the ground, has him in the mount, and there's just nowhere for Chandler to go. Back up against the cage, and it is just Paddy dropping bombs continuously on Iron Michael Chandler is something that Chandler can do. So Paddy wins the fight by TKO. It is his last fight going into this one. And yes, it's a huge step up. I mean, Paddy's last 3 fights are Tony Ferguson, Bobby Green, and Michael Chandler. Justin Gaethje's last 3 fights are Dustin Poirier, Max Holloway, and Rafael Fiziev. And a great victory for Gaethje, again, doing the UFC a favor. It was supposed to be Dan Hooker. He then fights Fiziev instead, or Fiziev, however you want to say his name. He beats Fiziev by unanimous decision. Fiziev fights fairly well early like the first fight. Gaethje takes over rounds 2 and 3, drops Fiziev in the second, wins the third round, wins a 29-28 decision, puts himself in an opportunity now to get another title fight or win another interim title here against Paddy the Baddy. Striking-wise, I think Justin Gaethje is going to beat Paddy Pimblett. I believe he will. I think it's going to be a competitive fight, and Paddy has shocked me, though. That's the thing. Paddy has continued to surprise me throughout this run. Because every time you think, okay, this is the fight where Paddy gets got. This is the fight where Pimblett finally meets his maker. And this is the time someone finally beats him in the UFC. Because don't forget, he wasn't perfect in Cage Warriors. Lost to Nadine Armani. Lost to Soren Bach. He was not a perfect fighter in Cage Warriors. But, you know, I've always thought someone's going to get Paddy. He leaves his head wide open to get hit. He doesn't really do that anymore. But he did for a while. His striking defense isn't very good. He blocks punches with his face sometimes. Again, he's adapted through all that. You know, Paddy's got him better, obviously. He's just so physically big now, too. And the guy, again, he's strong as hell. You saw that, him just walk through Chandler and, you know, manage Chandler on the mat. And on top of that, too, Paddy's striking game has gotten so much better, man. It's a much evolved striking game. The win over Bobby Green kind of just falls into a choke from Paddy, but whatever. Green goes for a takedown, which is odd, but whatever. Paddy wins. The Chandler fight's really telling. Now, again, the only thing I'll say about this that is positive for Gaethje in terms of the matchup specifically, other than the striking advantage, is it's Michael Chandler. Gaethje beat Michael Chandler 5 years ago. Right? And now it's Chandler at his peak. Now this is Chandler, you know, the Chandler Pimblett fought had already lost 3 fights prior to that in a row. And I guess Chandler's likely, I think, going to fight Conor McGregor on the White House. I think that's going to be the fight. Chandler, by the way, finally coming off a win, did beat Chad Mendes in Real American Freestyle. But I believe that's going to be Chandler's next fight. I think he's going to get Conor. And if I'm the UFC, I do it. Because, okay, you've been promising Chandler that fight. It's a fight you know Conor's probably going to win still. I think Conor beats Michael Chandler. So there's that. How much do you want to put in the Paddy win over Chandler? I don't know. But regardless of what you think of Michael Chandler, Paddy looked good. Now, can you just do that against Gaethje? On the feet, no. Gaethje is still a very wild striker, 100%. He's dangerous. He's still wild. I mean, you will see that, you know, calm and cool, composed Justin Gaethje, but you will see him get hit still. He looked good against Fiziev. It will take Gaethje a little bit to get going, I will say, but eventually beats Fiziev 2 rounds to 3, with rounds 2 and 3. Knocked out Dustin Poirier a couple fights ago. Had the Max Holloway fight. That fight gets changed, obviously, with the spinning back kick that Holloway lands that breaks Gaethje's nose, and that just changes the course of that fight. Gaethje, what gets forgotten a lot in that fight is Gaethje gets better as that fight goes on, wins the 4th round, on the way to win the 5th round, obviously, until the knockout, but Gaethje was getting better as that fight went on. It's just, will he be given the striking opportunity against Paddy Pimblett because of the ground game? And that's where I think the fight changes. Guys, don't get me wrong. I am going to be cheering so hard for Justin Gaethje to win. I've been a huge Justin Gaethje guy. I used to watch Justin Gaethje fight. And so I'll be honest, back when I was younger, the only reason I'd watch World Series of Fighting was to watch Justin Gaethje. I mean, that was the only reason I watched World Series back in the day on NBC Sports Network. Only reason I watched was because of Justin Gaethje. I knew Gaethje was obviously a long time before he came into the UFC, but again, before I got as well versed in the world of MMA with PFL and whatnot, obviously World Series becoming PFL, I watched World Series just for Justin Gaethje. I've been a Gaethje fan my entire life, basically. His entire career, I've been a Gaethje fan. I want Gaethje to desperately win this fight. I'm taking Paddy Pimblett. I hate it. Because I've been waiting for Gaethje to get another opportunity. Guys, I've taken Justin Gaethje in every title fight he's had. BMF and world title. And that's crazy. I know. I took him to beat Khabib. I did. Okay? Hey, a lot of people did. Okay? I'm just saying. A lot of people took Gaethje at the time. I know that. Now that sounds horrible. At the time, it wasn't that crazy of a take. Because we didn't know as well. Again, we didn't know, like we know now, Gaethje's wrestling. We knew, the D1 wrestling, Northern Colorado, We didn't know to what extent it really was, though. And that was at the time, the belief was, oh, he could stuff the takedowns out of Khabib. And don't forget, Gaethje did win the first round against Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov lost 2 rounds other than Glebson Tebow. Lost 2 rounds in his career. Round 3 against Conor, and round 1 against Justin Gaethje. Just want to put that out there. But anyways, obviously, hindsight's 2020. Who cares? I've taken Gaethje in every title fight he's had. I took him to beat Oliveira. I took him to beat Poirier, which he did. I took him to beat Max Holloway. I took him to beat Tony Ferguson, and that worked, obviously. I can't take him here, guys. I know what Paddy's going to do. I think Paddy's going to be competitive enough in the striking game until once Paddy really feels that big shot, or once he finally feels that big shot and feels like he's in any bit of danger, he's going to start wrestling Gaethje. He's going to get Gaethje down. And once Paddy finally realizes, oh, wait, hold on, that wasn't that hard. I can take this guy down. I'm arguably stronger than this guy. I think he just continues to go to it over and over again. Don't get me wrong. I am hoping Gaethje wins. I am cheering for Justin Gaethje to win the fight. I think Paddy Pimblett's going to get it done. I think Paddy the Baddy is going to submit Justin Gaethje in the second round. I hate it. But I believe, guys, I've seen this too many times with Gaethje against a good grappler and a good wrestler. Paddy can grapple. He's very good at it. He's a very good jiu-jitsu player. He's got the wrestling. He is a very physically strong guy. We just saw it in the Michael Chandler fight. He can get you down if he needs to. And I think he's going to do it against Gaethje. I don't think he's going to beat him with strikes in terms of, ground and pound once the fight hits the mat. No, I think he's going to find a submission. I've seen Gaethje again, submitted by Oliveira. We've seen him, obviously, how quickly Oliveira was able to submit him. Obviously, that was because of a knockdown and whatnot. And Gaethje got wild in that fight. But the Khabib fight too. Khabib takes him down and immediately submits him in the second round. Again, that's Khabib Nurmagomedov. This is Paddy Pimblett. And I hope, again, Gaethje's defensive wrestling is better. But at the same time, too, guys, Justin's 37. And how many wars this guy's been in, there's a chance he does just get knocked out by Paddy. There's a chance. I hate it, but there is a possibility. He beat Fiziev, but in all fairness, what has Fiziev done recently? Beat Ignacio Bahamondes? Awesome. Hell, Fiziev had lost to Gaethje, lost to Gamrot, then fought Gaethje again. So obviously Gaethje beat him for a second time. That was a no-brainer, right? Duh. Gaethje's last big win was Poirier. That was awesome. Yeah, Poirier doesn't fight anymore. It's just, I can't with a straight face tell you Gaethje's going to win. I hope he knocks Paddy out, but every time I pick against Paddy, it doesn't go our way. And there's a reason that Paddy is very skilled. Paddy's good. He doesn't leave his chin up anymore. He's a better defensive fighter, and striking-wise, he is very solid too. I think Paddy eventually is going to find that takedown. I think Pimblett's eventually going to submit Gaethje as well. I would not put it past Pimblett too, though, to really wobble Gaethje on the feet. We've seen Gaethje in title fights before. Charles Oliveira just get wild on the feet and swing for the fences. I hope he does it. I need a calm, cool, relaxed Gaethje in this fight, and I need him to time up something on Pimblett. I just think Paddy's too good. Gaethje, man, eventually all this damage is going to take a toll. Looked all right in the Fiziev fight, but it's Fiziev. Holloway fight. The Poirier fights plural. All of the Chandler fight, the Oliveira fight, all these fights are going to add up. Hell, even back to the World Series days, man. All these fights just add up eventually. I got to go Paddy Pimblett, man. I have to. I'm going to go Paddy Pimblett, second round submission. I hope Gaethje wins, but I don't see the path, man. No, I do see the path. The path is by knocking out Pimblett. 100% it is. And if Gaethje can stuff takedowns, he'll win. I just can't rely on that. I hope he does. I really hope he does. But, you've seen it like, hell, Ilia Topuria, I'm pretty sure Ilia said Paddy's going to win. I believe Rogan asked him that at one point in time. But the belief amongst fighters is that Paddy should win this fight, and I believe so. Again, I love Gaethje. He's 37, and with all this damage, is Gaethje really in his prime anymore? And with all this inactivity, I don't know. Paddy is 100% hitting his stride and 100% in his prime at 31. And again, I know it's just a Michael Chandler win, but I believe it's going to be enough to beat Justin Gaethje to win the interim lightweight championship with the UFC, putting together one of the biggest fights in UFC history. I'm serious. Paddy Pimblett versus Ilia Topuria for the lightweight championship, the fight the UFC has wanted, and they should be able to get it. There's a reason they're telling Armand, hey, pal, nope, you're not getting close to that belt. You're not getting a shot at Paddy before, he gets Ilia, because they want Paddy and Ilia for a reason. It's a massive fight. Everyone's going to be watching. And that's where I think Ilia chins Paddy in the first round. But that's neither here or there. Massive fight on the horizon for the UFC. I'm taking Paddy Pimblett to finish the first ever Paramount card with a second round submission victory over the highlight, Justin Gaethje. I hope Gaethje has one more fight. Give him the BMF winner against Holloway Oliveira. Do it on the White House lawn. Absolutely. Folks, thank y'all for watching our UFC 324 predictions. If you haven't done yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you disagree with any of the picks. We'll be back later in the week for our best bets on this card. Again, more a betting perspective for that video. And then next week as well for UFC 325, back-to-back weeks of pay-per-views. Volkanovski, Lopez 2 from Australia. We'll be back next week for a full card prediction video on that card as well. Folks, thank y'all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. And Mamba, forever.